It now seems that Donald Trump announced a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, but it turns out that truce may have been completely made up. Chaos continues to erupt in Tehran, inside Iran, and now Iraqi military bases are also under attack. These latest strikes appear to be coming from Iranian-backed militias. Roughly 90 minutes ago, Trump made a public statement claiming a ceasefire was in place. He called it a moment of peace for all, describing it as a breakthrough. In a follow-up call with NBC, he declared the ceasefire would be permanent and last forever. His words. But the problem? It looks like the ceasefire never even existed to begin with. Let's look at what Iran's state-run media outlet, Fars News, controlled by the Revolutionary Guard, is reporting. They said, quote, "The ceasefire proposal put forward by U.S. President Donald Trump is entirely false. Iran has received no official or unofficial ceasefire offer." And then came the warning. In response to this false media narrative, Iran will, within hours, prove this claim to be untrue through direct action against the Zionist regime. The New York Times also published a headline about this, and so far there's still silence from both Israel and Iran officially. Earlier, reports indicated that both sides were open to a ceasefire, but that now looks like misinformation. At 3:30 a.m. local time in Tel Aviv, Iranian officials had reportedly told France 24 that if Israeli attacks continued past that hour, Iran would treat the ceasefire as null. But even that statement is in doubt, because as you just heard from Fars News, Iran is saying there were never any ceasefire talks or agreements to begin with. Meanwhile, there are new reports of a drone strike hitting a third military base in Iraq. Balad Air Base, located north of Baghdad, is said to have been targeted following earlier drone hits on Camp Taji and Camp Victory. These appear to be one-way drones launched by Iranian-backed groups. The Israeli Air Force is still striking sites across Tehran and parts of western Iran. Here's a look at radar data. One base in Iraq was destroyed by a drone, origin still unconfirmed, but likely Iranian proxy militias. Look at this image from Taji. Buildings are burning. It's intense. Back in Tehran, reports suggest there may have been a targeted strike aimed at high-ranking Iranian officials. Take a look at this brief video clip here. It appears to show the aftermath of that attack. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is now telling his cabinet not to comment on any ceasefire proposals. Meanwhile, Trump continues to insist that Israel has agreed to one. Israel, for its part, is now preparing for the possibility of heavy missile fire from Iran, possibly even before the supposed ceasefire kicks in. But Iran keeps insisting there was never a ceasefire. Here's what Trump posted about an hour and a half ago. Congratulations to everyone. Israel and Iran have fully agreed on a total ceasefire. In about 6 hours, once final missions are wrapped up, both sides will begin a peaceful period. Trump claimed Iran would begin its ceasefire in the 12th hour, followed by Israel, with the entire 12-day war coming to a close by the 24th hour. He added, "This war could have dragged on for years and torn apart the entire Middle East, but it didn't, and it never will." Then came the finale. God bless Israel, God bless Iran, God bless the Middle East, God bless the United States of America, and in all caps, God bless the world. Yet again, Iran's Fars News repeated its earlier statement. Trump's ceasefire announcement is completely false. No communication or offer has been made to Iran, and they repeated their warning of direct retaliation. At the same time, Trump put out another post saying, "Congratulations, world. It's time for peace." And right above that, bizarrely, was an ad asking whether the U.S. should revalue its gold reserves, referencing U.S. Code Title 31, Section 5117. That's followed by an image of Trump appearing to sign an executive order about gold, though it's unclear what that's about. Finally, Trump gave a shout-out to the Emir of Qatar, thanking him for helping broker peace. He mentioned today's attack on an American base in Qatar and noted that no U.S. or Qatari personnel were harmed. He wrapped it up with, "Thank you very much for your attention to this matter." Yet again, Iran's Fars News repeated its earlier statement. Trump's ceasefire announcement is completely false. No communication or offer has been made to Iran, and they repeated their warning of direct retaliation. Right now, there's a high level of confusion about what's actually happening on the ground. Let me share what Senator J.D. Vance said just moments ago. Take a look at this clip. When asked whether it's surprising that Iran hasn't confirmed any official ceasefire, Vance responded by pointing out how public and private messages from Iran often don't match. In his words, "One thing I've learned over the past 4 or 5 months is that what Iran says in public and in private can be very different." He emphasized that Iran seems to want the conflict to end. According to him, Iran's air defense systems have been completely taken out, their conventional missile capabilities mostly destroyed, and their nuclear infrastructure wiped out, as he claimed earlier. Vance believes Iran is at a point where continuing the war is no longer in its interest. He added that the president spoke about a 6-hour window to finish current strikes. Since it's nighttime there, when much of the fighting usually happens, Vance speculated that a few more hours of attacks might continue, but tomorrow could mark a turning point, the end of the 12-day war, and possibly the start of a new phase of peace in the region. Meanwhile, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has publicly denied any agreement with Israel on a ceasefire or halt in military operations. However, he stated that if Israel stops launching attacks against Iran by 4 o'clock in the morning, then Iran will not retaliate any further. The current time in Tehran is now 4:24 in the morning. Iran continues to insist that it didn't start this war. Israel did. At this point, there is no confirmed ceasefire agreement. Still, the Iranian government says that if Israeli forces stop their operations by the 4 a.m. deadline, Iran does not plan to continue military responses beyond that. The final decision, they said, will be made later depending on how the situation unfolds. That statement came directly from Iran's foreign minister, who had just been meeting with Vladimir Putin in Russia. When asked about the status of Iran's nuclear materials, Vance addressed concerns about highly enriched uranium. He said the key issue isn't whether we know where every pound of it is stored, but whether Iran has the ability to enrich uranium to weapons grade and turn it into a nuclear weapon. And according to him, based on the success of the United States military mission and the president's leadership, those capabilities have now been neutralized. He went on to explain that while Iran may still have large stockpiles of uranium, the U.S. mission was aimed at destroying enrichment facilities and making sure Iran couldn't convert that material into weapons. In his words, "Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do believe it's buried. But more importantly, we've eliminated their enrichment capabilities and their ability to weaponize enriched fuel." Vance emphasized that the biggest concern had always been stopping Iran from taking uranium enriched to 60% and pushing it to 90%, which is weapons grade. And on that front, he says, the mission was a complete success. We'll continue keeping you updated with the latest as more details come in.